Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Oh, Premanande Hari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahaṁsa Parivrajakacarya Uttara ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya His Divine Taste A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Darshana Sarga Sai Prabhu Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Panchatattva Gaurnitai Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Shakhi Vrinda Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Shri Shri Prahlad Nrsimhadev Ki Jai Shri Navdeep Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubheva-cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaः. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Kamkarti vachalam bangam nabhayatigram yatripātamaham vande Shri Guru Shri. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 9, Text 18. The chapter is entitled as Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Text 18. tad-darśana-āhlāda-paripluta antaraḥ tad-darśana-āhlāda-pariplutāntaro hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bhara aśru locanah hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ nanāma pādāmbujam asya viśva-sṛg nanāma pādāmbujam asya viśva-sṛg yat pāramahaṁsyena pathā-adhigamyate yat pāramahaṁsyena pathādhigamyate tad-darśana-āhlāda-pariplutāntaro hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ nanāma pādāmbujam asya viśva-sṛk yat pāramahaṁsyena pathādhigamyate tad-darśana-āhlāda-pariplutāntaro hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ nanāma pādāmbujam asya viśva-sṛk yat pāramahaṁsyena pathādhigamyate. Please chant. tad-darśana-āhlāda-pariplutāntaro hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ pariplutāntaro hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ yat pāramahaṁsyena pathādhigamyate. Matajis, any Mataji? tad-darśana-āhlāda-pariplutāntaro hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ nanāma pādāmbujam asya viśva-sṛk yat paramahaṁsyena pathādhigamyate. tad-darśanāhlāda-pariplutāntaro hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ nanāma pādāmbujam asya viśva-sṛg yat pāramahaṁsyena pathādhigamyate. Hare Krishna. Word by word translation. Tat, by that audience of the Lord. Darshana, audience. Āhlāda, joy. Paripluta, overwhelmed. Antaraḥ, within the heart. hṛṣyat, full in ecstasy. Tanuḥ, body. Prema-bhara, in full transcendental love. Aśru, tears. Locanah, in the eyes. nanāma, bow down. pādāmbujam, under the lotus feet. Asya, of the Lord. viśva-sṛk, the creator of the universe. The creator of the universe. Yat, which. Paramahaṁsyena, by the great liberated soul. Pathā, the path. Adhigamyate, is followed. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahmā, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and thus, in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tears of love. He thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the way of the highest perfection for the living being, paramahaṁsa. Okay, please repeat. Lord Brahmā, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and thus, in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tears of love. He thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the way of the highest perfection for the living being, paramahaṁsa. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that this great literature is meant for the paramahaṁsas, parama-nirmatsaranam satam. That is to say, the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for persons completely free from malice. In the conditioned life, the malicious life begins from the top, namely bearing malice against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Personality of Godhead is an established fact in all the revealed scriptures. And in the Bhagavad Gita, the personal feature of the Supreme Lord is specially mentioned, so much so that the last portion of the great literature has emphatically stressed that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be saved from the miseries of life. Unfortunately, persons with impious backgrounds do not believe in the Personality of Godhead, and everyone wants to become God himself without any qualification. This malicious nature in the conditioned soul continues even up to the stage when a person wants to be one with the Lord, and thus even the greatest of the empiric philosophers, speculating on becoming one with the Supreme Lord, cannot become a paramahaṁsa because the malicious mind is there. Therefore, the paramahaṁsa stage of life can be attained only by those who are fixed in the practice of bhakti yoga. This bhakti yoga begins if a person has the firm conviction that simply discharging devotional service to the Lord in full transcendental love can elevate him to the highest perfectional stage of life. Brahmāji believed in his art of bhakti yoga. He believed in the instruction of the Lord to execute tapa, and he discharged the function with great penance and thus achieved the great success of seeing the Vaikuntha lokas and the Lord also by personal experience. No one can reach the abode of Supreme Lord by any mechanical means of the mind or mission, but one can reach the abode of the Vaikuntha lokas simply by following the process of bhakti yoga, because the Lord can be realized only through the bhakti yoga process. Lord Brahmāji was actually sitting on his lotus seat, and from there, by executing the process of bhakti yoga in great seriousness, he could see the Vaikuntha lokas with all variegatedness, as well as the Lord in person and his associates. Following in the footsteps of Lord Brahma, any person, even up to this day, can attain the same perfection by following the path of the paramahaṁsa as recommended herein. Lord Chaitanya also approved of this method of self-realization for men in this age. One should first, with all conviction, believe in the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, and without making efforts to realize him by speculative philosophy, one should prefer to hear about him from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and later from the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam. One should hear such discourses from a person Bhagavatam, and not from the professional man or from the karmi, jnani or yogi. That is the secret of learning this science. One does not need to be in the renounced order of life. He can remain in his present condition of life. But he must search out the association of a bona fide devotee of the Lord and hear from him the transcendental message of the Lord with faith and conviction. That is the path of the Paramahaṁsa recommended herein. Amongst various holy names of the Lord, he is also called Ajita, or one who can never be conquered by anyone else. Yet he can be conquered by the Paramahaṁsa path, as practically realized and shown by the great spiritual master, Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma has personally recommended this Paramahaṁsa pantha in his own words as follows. Gyane prayasam mudapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam sthane sthita shrutigatam tanubang manobhir ye prayasa jita jita piyasya tasya trilakam. Lord Brahma said, O my Lord Krishna, a devotee who abandons the path of empiric philosophical speculation aimed at merging in the existence of the Supreme and engages himself in hearing your glories and activities from a bona fide sadhu or saint, and who lives an honest life in the occupational engagement of his social life, can conquer your sympathy and mercy, even though you are Ajita or unconquerable. Bhagavatam 10.14.3. That is the path of Paramahaṁsa, which was personally followed by Lord Brahma and later recommended by him for attaining perfect success in life. Hari Om Tat Sat. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Jaya Pataka Swaminiti Namale Namo Acharya Pādāya Kripa-pradayane Gaura Pathādhigamyate Nakaramita Guruvei Gaura Chandra Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishna Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Mantre Guru Arja Shikha Guruvan Tashabhachana. Hare Krishna. I humbly seek all of your blessings This is a wonderful verse by Brahmā, by Sutta Goswami, basically describing about Lord Brahma's situation when he met Lord in his abode Vaikuntha planets. So Srila Prabhupada has given a beautiful purport on that, which is self-explanatory. There is no need to explain more on that. However, as a part of my service, I would like to share a few words from my realization and whatever I have heard from my Guru Vargas. So kindly bless me so that I can do this service. Hare Krishna. So, you can say that this verse is actually the peak of devotional service. tad-darśanāhlāda-pariplutāntaro. Āhlāda is joy. So when Lord Brahma, he saw Lord, and he immediately became ecstatic. And paripluta means overwhelmed. Paripluta, same meaning. So overwhelmed. So just by seeing Lord, one can become overwhelmed. But this is the highest perfection of devotional life. One can only see Lord when he is perfect in devotional practices. When one achieves the stage of prema bhakti, then only he can see Lord. And what happens when he sees Lord? hṛṣyat-tanuḥ prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ. And hṛṣyat means again, he was feeling ecstatic, joyful. And tanu, his whole body was actually filled with all the ecstatic symptoms. And his eyes, prema-bharāśru-locanaḥ, his eyes were filled with tears of love. Srila Prabhupada, in the translation also it is written that that is the way of the highest perfection for the living being. And Srila Prabhupada also gave a significant amount of write-ups on this. In the first part of the purport is spoken about the malicious nature against Lord. The one who is envious to the Lord, he cannot have these feelings. It's not possible. One who is free from the matsharata, the enviousness from Lord, he can only feel this. Since Brahmaji had no enviousness against Krishna, so he could feel this very nicely. And Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport that this one. Lord Brahmaji was actually sitting on his lotus seat, and from there, by executing the process of bhakti yoga in great seriousness, he could see the Vaikuntha lokas as well as the Lord. So one has to execute devotional service with a particular element. What's that? Great seriousness. If there is no seriousness, if there is no sincerity in practice, then it will not happen. We have read before also in the 8th chapter that Shrinnata kathayantasya nittam grinitasya sachestitam. Shrinnata shraddhaya nittam grinitasya sachestitam. One has to hear daily, regularly with shraddha, shraddhaya. Shraddha means, purport also it is mentioned couple of times, with full conviction. So devotional service actually begins with conviction. In the initial days, the shraddha or faith is tender, komala, and then we have to make it firm. The whole devotional life is actually making this faith firm for Krishna. So this faith, initial faith, is the root of prema, and prema is the fruit of that root. Shraddha to prema is a whole journey a devotee has to go through. So with full conviction, if one seriously practices devotional service, then he can achieve this perfection in seriousness. And in the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada spoke about the path of the paramahaṁsas. So what the paramahaṁsas do? They listen Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita or Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Katha with full conviction from the pure source. Srimad Bhagavatam, you should hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the book Bhagavatam, from the person Bhagavatam. That is the way of perfection. When a Bengali poet, he wrote some poem on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with some speculation, and he came to Puri to read it before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Sharup Damodar was the gateway of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he said, okay, let me first hear what you have written. So he read, and Sharup Damodar, he understood that this is full of nonsense. He wrote something like that Lord Jagannath is the body and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the soul. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into the body of Lord Jagannath and they became like live. So he said that you Pashandi, you have made difference between Lord's body and soul, like us, material form of life. So then he advised him, Jaho Bhagavato Paro Giya Bhagavato Sthane, Ekanto Ashray Karo Chaitanya Charane. Go and read, study Srimad Bhagavatam. Paro Giya, study Srimad Bhagavatam under the shelter of pure Bhagavatam, Bhakti Bhagavatam, person Bhagavatam. So this Bhagavata is actually anything which is related to Krishna is called Bhagavat, related to Bhagavan. And who can deliver Bhagavatam? One who is also Bhagavatam. He can deliver Bhagavatam. So therefore there are two types of Bhagavatam, person Bhagavata and book Bhagavata. So we read book Bhagavata, we study book Bhagavata under the guidance of person Bhagavata. Therefore, Sri Shukadeva Goswami, he was the most perfect person to decorate this Vyasasana. So now in the lineage of Shukadeva Goswami, the devotees, they are continuing to follow this process of studying Srimad Bhagavatam in a group. However, we should always remember that this Vyasasana is for Shukadeva Goswami actually, or his bona fide representatives, Shuta Goswami. So one who speaks Srimad Bhagavatam should also follow the parampara, what they have said, not any speculated thing. Then it will be a disservice to the whole parampara. So we see in the second part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada has emphasized on ecstatic symptoms. tad-darśanāhlāda-pariplutāntaro. He was completely overwhelmed, Brahmāji. And these tears from his eyes actually described in the scriptures that this is the highest peak of devotional service. One of the acharyas, they said, Bhakti Yog, Bhakti Yog, Bhakti Yogadhan, Bhakti Ei Krishna Bali Smarana Krandan. Bhakti Yog, this path of devotional service is Mahadhan, is a great treasure. And what is that great treasure? Krishna Bali Smarana Krandan. Bhakti Ei Krishna Bali Smarana Krandan. One has to constantly remember Krishna and cry for Krishna. That is Bhakti Yoga. So we may wonder that this is extremely difficult, right? And in our society, usually people don't cry. We don't cry because we don't want to make it as a show off. However, we cannot negate the fact that tears of joy in separation from Krishna is the acme, the summit of devotional service. We see in all our line, all the parampara acharyas and the exalted personalities, the devotees, they all are crying for Krishna. In fourth canto, we see when Lord Vishnu, he descended, then Prithu Maharaj, he became overwhelmed and tears glided down through his cheeks. So that's the result of mature devotional service. When it is ripened, it should like when things are ripen, it becomes soft, very soft, like mango, ripened mango, and that small little drops of juice comes out from them. So the devotional service or prema bhakti, actually the perfection of devotional service is prema bhakti. When like the perfection of the mango is like soft, ripened. Similarly, the perfection of devotional service is soft heart. And when one becomes endowed with soft heart, then his softness for Krishna, his love for Krishna actually comes out in the form of tears. So tears are the symptom of love, deep love for Krishna and separation. It is mentioned in the Sri Chaitanya Mangal that one time Lord Krishna, he saw, when he came to the palace, he saw that Rukmini Devi was crying. And Krishna asked that, what happened? Why are you crying? Is there any problem in the palace? Any issues which you cannot handle? Or somehow you got hurt from anyone? No. But she was crying incessantly. So Krishna said that, please explain to me what happened. Let me see if I can help you. Rukmini Devi said, you cannot. Because these feelings only I have and Srimati Radharani has. Nobody else can feel this. What's that feelings? I am feeling intense separation from you. So Krishna said, I am here. Why you are feeling separation? So Rukmini Devi said, no, because next moment you'll go away. You'll go for your work. You'll go out. So thinking about that, I am feeling separation. Just imagine, Krishna in the next moment, he will not be there. Just thinking about that, Srimati Rukmini Devi is feeling separation. Almost a similar pastime we find in Sri Brajadham, when Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani was sitting together, and suddenly there's one bee who was actually zooming around, and it was creating disturbance for them. So Krishna's one friend, Shubala, he said, hey, go away. So he was chasing away the bee, and the bee, he left. And he said that Madhu has left, Madhusūdan has left. Madhusūdan means, Madhu is honey, and Sūdan means actually one who is enemy of honey. But in this sense, one who extracts honey from the flower. So the bees in Sanskrit, bee is also called as Madhusūdan. So he said Madhusūdan has left. So just hearing that, just by hearing that, Srimati Radharani became completely overwhelmed in separation from Krishna. And she started to cry, she fainted. And Krishna said, hey, what happened? Krishna was there sitting close to him, close to her, but still, just hearing that word, those words that Madhusūdan has left, she became completely, she has gone into trance in Krishna's separation. So when someone experiences that ecstatic love for Krishna, then every moment he should feel separation. And the feelings of separation is the highest peak of devotional service. So the goal from the initial tender faith is to reach to that peak, crying for Krishna. You see in our whole parampara, everyone has cried. Nobody has achieved Krishna without tears. Tears are the compulsory element. Without tears, you cannot get Krishna. So we should not it doesn't mean that we should show off our tears in the public, but in private we should try to cry for Krishna. Now, how we can try? Because tears is not like, okay, you put some, like one of Mahaprabhu's associate was Kamalakar Pippalai, and he used to make dust of the chili and put it in the eyes, because he saw that everyone was crying for Mahaprabhu. Why I cannot cry? So he thought, let me cry. Let me try something special. So he put some chili powder. I have to cry, somehow or other. I have to cry for Krishna. So that was his mood. Of course, we cannot imitate them. Everyone was crying for Krishna. Nobody could get Krishna without tears. In Vrindavan, all the Goswamis, that was their daily business. Always crying. He Radhe Vraja Devi ke chalalite, he Nanda Suna Kutaha, Shri Govardhana Kalpa Pada Patale, Kalindi Vane Kutaha, Ghoshantaviti Sarvato Brajapure, Khedoir Mahabhyabalo, Vandirupa Sanatano Raghujugo, Shri Jiva Gopalako. That was the daily business. Khedoir Mahabhyabalo, Ghoshantav iti. By saying this, where is Krishna? Oh Krishna, where are you? Oh Srimati Radhani, where are you? Oh Lalita, oh Vishaka, where are you? Are you in the foothill, the Govardhan foothill? Are you on the bank of Yamuna? Where are you? They are always crying in separation. Srila Prabhupada said that one should not think that I have gotten Krishna, so my life is successful, I got Krishna. No, this is not our Gaudiya Parampara. Gaudiya Parampara is that I am still searching for Krishna. And how that will be successful, that search for Krishna? Is that by our own endeavor? No, that's not possible. We should put our effort following the footsteps of the previous acharyas, sato vritte. Devotional life means following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Otherwise it's utpato iva kalpate. It's simply disturbance. So we follow the footsteps of the previous acharyas, and within our heart, the attitude, the mood should be, when Krishna will give me his mercy. So this whole path of devotional service is actually based on grace. No grace, no gain. So we have to get grace, then we can receive Krishna. This is not something to be achieved. This is something to be received. We have to receive that. We cannot just grab and get Krishna. It's not possible. So you have to follow the process and patiently wait for Krishna's mercy. So Srila Prabhupada writes in Upadeshamrita, the text 3, that one who doesn't have patience cannot get Krishna. It's not that overnight I will become full of all ecstatic symptoms. Oh, I cannot cry for Krishna, so that means it's not happening. The process is not working. No, the process will work, but we have to wait for Krishna. We have to wait for Krishna's grace. But the same tear can also be misunderstood when somebody is like just soft-hearted because out of their compassion for the materialistic thing. Like we see in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 1st verse, Arjuna was tam tatha veta kripaya aśru-kulakshanam, kripaya vishtam aśru-kulakshanam. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the Pāpa, the very first line, actually Srimad Bhagavad Gita starts with 2nd chapter. 1st chapter is like background. And then first line, Srila Prabhupada's purports, Bhagavad Gita starts from 2nd chapter, technically speaking, and Srila Prabhupada's beginning is also very interesting. He writes in the very first line, very first sentence of the purport, these tears, these feelings is actually symptoms of material attachment. I'm just paraphrasing. So it's like material attachment. This cannot be considered as true symptom of a devotee. But interestingly, in the previous chapter, last verse, first chapter, last verse, Prabhupada writes in the purport, this soft heart of Arjuna made him eligible to accept spiritual knowledge. But in the second verse again, next verse again, Srila Prabhupada says, no, this is not okay. So one should have soft heart, but not unnecessarily getting attached to material things. The more we have attachment for material things, we will be devoid of mercy of Krishna. Or we can say, we will not be able to appreciate the value of devotional service. So one should come out of that material attachment. But the same tears should be applied for Krishna. Just the opposite. We have to put it 180 degree. The direction has to be changed. It should go for Krishna. When we cry for Krishna, then it's like successful. Everyone has cried in this way. So this is a path of actually crying. Our dear Srila Gauragovinda Maharaj used to say that this is a crying mission, and I've opened a school in Bhubaneswar. Everyone should come and cry for Krishna. So one should not misunderstand these words like stop everything and just start praying. But this is the peak, this is the summit of devotional service. So it means that we should develop our inner attitude for Krishna's. Devotional life is not just external engagement, where I'm doing so many things, so much services, I'm filled with services, but there is no heartfelt feelings. No, we need feelings from heart. So it should also be, it's not just external engagement, there should be internal involvement also, emotional involvement. Then it comes together. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattu sarvam pravartate iti matta bhajante buddha mam buddha bhava samannita. One has buddha, intelligence, one is buddha, intelligent, and bhava samannita. So it's not just mere some service, it's devotional service. So devotion is the internal aspect, service is the external aspect. Service without devotion has no value. Right? I mean, it will not attract Krishna. And then devotion without service is simply emotion with no foundation. So service should be there, devotion should be there. It's priti-mulak seva. Priti-mulak. Mulak means rooted. The service should be rooted in priti, love for Krishna. So the more we develop our love for Krishna by the grace of the Sadhu Guru Vaishnavas, the more we can appreciate the value of Krishna consciousness. And then we feel very joyful from the heart. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he recommended this process. And he said that in Madhya Lila 24th chapter, text 3:23, he said that Amahenok jeba keho batul hoy, ei drishte bhagavater artha janay. If one becomes a madman like me, he may also understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam by this process. Very significant word, right? One should become mad to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. And we may think, no, this is not for us. It's not for the devotees in our society. If you think like that, then you see what Srila Prabhupada said. Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Shat Swarup Maharaj in 1972, April 10th. It's one of my most favorite letters, Prabhupada writes to, because this letter, this small portion gives the real purpose of ISKCON. Prabhupada writes to Shat Swarup Maharaj, now I have given you everything, but I do not see that even the basic principles of advancement in spiritual life are always there. And sometimes there is a tendency to neglect what is our real purpose of life, namely, to become mad after Krishna. Prabhupada writes that, it's not my words, Founder Acharya words. He said that the tendency to neglect what is our real purpose of life, to become mad after Krishna. The purpose of life is to become mad after Krishna. There is a purpose of life, there is a purpose of mind, there is a purpose of yours, there is a purpose of everyone, there is a purpose of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to become mad for Krishna. And instead, Prabhupada continues, we become carried away by big talks. So I'm still thinking how things will go on. In 1972, Prabhupada was thinking, after 6 years of establishment of ISKCON, he was thinking how things will go on, because these people are not becoming mad after Krishna. So people should become mad for Krishna. And this madness it should be there, because Mahaprabhu says, amaheno jiba keho batula hoy, ei drishte bhagavater artho janoy. If one can become mad like me, then he can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, that's also interesting, in that verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu plainly explains that Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be understood by those who are materially situated. Materially situated means like we are in the bodily platform, we cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam. In other words, one has to become a madman like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One has to, it's emphatic. One has to become madman like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Apart from being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an acharya who exhibited love of God like a madman. So the particular word acharya is significantly used here, because acharya is not only doing acharan, he is also preaching. So Mahaprabhu became mad means we should all become mad. Mad, that's the meaning of acharya. He is acharya, mad. According to his own written verse, yugaitam nimeshana, he says that for him, a moment seems to be last 12 years. Chakshusha prabrishaitam, my tears are flowing like torrents of rain. Shunnaitam jagat sarvam, I feel as if the entire universe were vacant. Why? Govinda virahena me, due to my being separated from Govinda Krishna. One can understand Srimad Bhagavatam only by following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Only by. This word is also a very intentional used. Only by following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who was, and what was his symptom? He was putting mala and tilak? No. Prabhupada has a famous quote, if you just put mala and tilak, then you are also a kolit chala. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Euta ek kolit chala. If you do not know the philosophy, and what is the perfection of philosophy? To become mad for Krishna. Otherwise it will drive speculators and putting arguments, no use of that. You cannot reach Krishna, you cannot get Krishna by simply knowing the scripture without any feelings for Krishna. So who was mad for Krishna? We cannot, of course, imitate Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is not possible. However, unless one is very serious about understanding Krishna, he cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is therefore concluded, one has to learn about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, and one who has to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who do not follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot understand Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. You see, several times Prabhupada mentions cannot, can, only. So we have to follow Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to follow Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to follow Person Bhagavatam. What do they do? Like Srila Shukadeva Goswami could not utter the name of the best gopi because he would become completely emotional. So from here we can understand that we should have that feelings for Krishna, for crying for Krishna. Everyone has cried for Krishna. In Teachings of Lord Kapila, Prabhupada writes in chapter 13, we should awaken our lost Krishna consciousness in this way and become mad after Krishna. One more time, not only in letter, in his books, we should become mad after Krishna in our separation from him. This is called Krishna prema, and this love was distributed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we have joined in ISKCON for what? For just doing some service? Yes, service at the medium, but receive Krishna prema. And Krishna prema means one should cry, one should become mad for Krishna. That is the sum and substance of whole philosophical arguments in all the scriptures, to become mad for Krishna. One of our Gauriya Vaishnava, Srila Vamsidas Babaji Maharaj, he was doing bhajan in Koladip, Navadip. He was also mad. And sometime when people would come to him, he would use all like slang words, scolding to him. Because if you scold, then people will not come close to him. He can do bhajan. Of course, that is Bhajananandi Vaishnava. We are Goshtanandi. But even if the Goshtanandis also cried, Vrajavashis are also Goshtanandi. In Goshti, they do Ananda. Goshtanandi means what? Not just, okay, come in a program and just do some enjoyment and okay, I have enjoyed a lot. We are reading from Srila Prabhupada anecdotes by Siddhanta Prabhu. One disciple said after the program while coming back, Prabhupada, today I enjoyed the Kirtan very much. You enjoyed? Then it was definitely Maya Kirtan. It was not Krishna Kirtan. Because you enjoyed. You cannot enjoy. Krishna will enjoy. You can relish the Mahaprasad. So we cannot enjoy. We should relish. That's in Sanskrit the word is ashvadan. We should relish the mercy. So we came here to relish Krishna consciousness. And one who has that experience, that relishing Krishna consciousness, he can give that to us. So we should all take shelter of Srila Prabhupada and his teachings. Srila Prabhupada's books are so wonderful. Everything is there. Sometimes people go here and there and like Vrindavan, so many people they go and I have seen, unfortunately, ISKCON devotees, I don't know why, they keep some other like Vrindavan Vaishnavas, some Babajis, in their altar after Srila Prabhupada. Is that ISKCON law? ISKCON law is only after Srila Prabhupada. And even your own Guruma should be small, like in the temple, it put in a tray. But they feel like I have got something extra from Vrindavan Babajis. Srila Prabhupada has given everything from A to Z. Srila Prabhupada was also crying. Many times we saw in his lecture he is choked up. But he did not expose that much. So everything is there in Srila Prabhupada's book. So many times you will get about this, get the references about this crying in his books. So everyone has to cry. But there is a process. We should not imitate. We should follow the process. So as I was saying, the Vamsidas Babaji Maharaj was like that. So many Vaishnavas, sometimes they may feel, they may seem little bit like what do you call as mad, crazy, but they are not actually crazy. They have got the essence. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. We still have 4 more minutes. You have any reflection, any comments, or any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
It seems that there are some symptoms of these bhavas that we can, as neophytes, quite easily mimic. So what are the symptoms, or what are the things that we should really truly look for in a person who is experiencing authentic bhava as opposed to being a copycat?
Thank you, bro. So what I understood your question is, how can I differentiate between actual bhava and mimicking, right? I heard from my Guru Maharaj, one time he was telling in his class that he was reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he said that there was this line there that the devotees are dancing ecstatically. So Guru Maharaj was explaining ecstatically dancing. So what is that ecstatic feelings? So the devotees, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they were ecstatic, they would forget everything. Everything, their house, their children, their wives, their husbands, everything they would forget, and they're completely absorbed in that. So Guru Maharaj said that, don't think that we are also ecstatic, because then you have to check whether we have forgot everything or not. So it sometimes people try to do that artificially. That's not okay. That's not actually approved. One of the pastime is there that when a snake charmer was playing flute, and Haridas Thakur, hearing that music, that flute, he became ecstatic. He went into trance and he was showing all the ecstatic symptoms because he remembered about the Kaliyadaman pastimes. So when he was rolling on the ground, there was one Vipra, one Brahmana, so-called Brahmana. So he came and he saw that this person has took birth in the Yavana Kul, the Mohammedan family. If he can show like this and so many people are appreciating him taking his charan dhuli, then I can also do that. So he started to show that symptom, showing that symptom like, okay. And he was rolling on the ground and crying. Somehow he managed to bring some drops of tears. But the snake charmer was actually expert, understanding what is real, what is artificial. So he took on stick and he started to beat that dhanga vipra. And then people understood that as soon as they started to beat, he actually left the place. Save me, he is shouting and left the place. So these symptoms will not come. So what happens, initially we may feel some, because Krishna consciousness is dormant in our heart, you see. So when we practice, sometimes it actually clicks and we feel, but it doesn't last long. And the reason is we are not absorbed. The more we become absorbed, it will last long, then we can feel. So we don't want to stop those initial emotional feelings, but we also don't want to be so much puffed up about those feelings. Okay, now I have become a big devotee. No. Oh Krishna, this is your grace. Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, this is your grace. We got it. So please bless me so that I can always feel happy in Krishna consciousness by doing so. So gradually it will come. And I cannot identify it. Like one who has disease, he has to go to the doctor. He can diagnose it. If I diagnose, okay, this might be this might be that, this speculation. Hare Krishna. So a pure devotee can explain. All right. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samvita Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.